mengajarkan nilai-nilai keislaman dan kemuhammadiyahan.
Tentu saja ini menjadi tugas penting bagi kami dalam menyelenggarakan pendidikan dan pengajaran, melaksanakan layanan, evaluasi pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat. Dalam membangun intelektual dan inovasi yang kedepannya ikut memajukan dan mengembangkan iptek, seni, dan budaya, sesuai tuntutan perubahan dan perkembangan zaman. Tanggung jawab inilah yang akan memacu peningkatan kualitas sumber daya manusia dengan menghasilkan lulusan yang mempunyai jiwa kemandirian dalam pengetahuan dalam berbagai bidang.
Dalam rangka mempersiapkan diri menjadi universitas unggulan, segala fasilitas pendukung telah disediakan dalam mendukung segala kegiatan agar menjadi tempat yang kondusif dalam kegiatan belajar, melakukan proses, dan mengembangkan diri serta meningkatkan mutu pendidikan.
Tidak hanya pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan di ruang lingkup kampus, Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak juga bekerja sama dengan berbagai pihak melalui program penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat, yang penerapan ilmunya dapat dirasakan masyarakat luas. Dengan pemberdayaan ini, membuat Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak semakin dekat dengan masyarakat, serta implementasi teknologi untuk mencapai efisiensi dan inovasi.
Lembaga Penelitian dan Pengabdian kepada Masyarakat Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak saat ini berada pada klaster kedua kinerja penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat di Indonesia. Dan Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak merupakan satu-satunya perguruan tinggi swasta di Kalimantan Barat yang berada pada kategori utama dan sangat bagus untuk kinerja penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat. Banyak hibah penelitian maupun pengabdian pada masyarakat yang berhasil kami raih baik dalam tingkat lokal, nasional maupun internasional. Saat ini yang sedang kami kerjakan adalah menyediakan listrik memanfaatkan aliran sungai untuk daerah pedalaman Kalimantan Barat yang belum terjamah oleh PLN. Kemudian kami juga bekerja sama dengan Uni Eropa dalam mengembangkan smart farmer, yaitu khususnya kelapa dengan memanfaatkan IoT.
Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak juga berkolaborasi dengan dunia pendidikan internasional seperti universitas-universitas di Asia Tenggara dan Eropa. Dengan adanya transfer knowledge antara dosen dan mahasiswa, sehingga meningkatkan kualitas SDM Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak yang berskala internasional.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kantor Urusan Internasional atau biasa disingkat dengan KUI atau International Relations Office Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak merupakan salah satu unit lembaga yang bergerak di bidang kerjasama internasional. Banyak sekali program yang sudah kami laksanakan, diantaranya guest lecture, kemudian lecture and students exchange, summer program, joint research, kemudian visiting professor, internship, cultural exchange program, dan masih banyak lagi yang mengindikasikan ada sebuah kerjasama yang erat antara Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak dan partner di luar negeri, khususnya di Asia Tenggara. KUI UM Pontianak bekerja sama dengan beberapa lembaga, diantaranya Cityfed dan Simeo, Asosiasi KUI PTMA dan KUI se-Indonesia, dengan harapan semoga dengan kerjasama ini membawa KUI UM Pontianak menjadi lebih baik.
Saat ini, Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak telah memiliki 7 fakultas dengan 16 program studi yang 2 diantaranya berada di Kabupaten Sintang yang bisa menjadi pilihan untuk bergabung di Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak. Dengan semangat menempatkan diri sebagai universitas terbaik dalam skala regional, nasional, dan internasional dengan misi membagikan pengetahuan, inovasi, dan kreativitas yang berkeyakinan serta berkomitmen dalam membangun untuk mencapai tujuan yang mulia, menjadikan masyarakat yang lebih baik. Kota Pontianak, kota tercinta. Kota Khatulistiwa terletak di Provinsi Kalimantan Barat. Provinsi Seribu Sungai yang dalam konteks kewilayahan tentu saja prospeknya menunggu untuk dieksplorasi dan dikembangkan dalam segala bidang. Perlunya sumber daya manusia yang berkompetensi untuk ikut serta dalam membangun dan mengembangkan semua peluang tersebut. Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak yang berdiri pada tanggal 3 Oktober tahun 1990 merupakan salah satu dari 178 perguruan tinggi Muhammadiyah yang hadir dengan misi menjadi universitas yang unggul dalam pengembangan iptek, seni, dan sumber daya manusia untuk pemberdayaan masyarakat berdasarkan nilai-nilai keislaman dan kemuhammadiyahan.
Tentu saja ini menjadi tugas penting bagi kami dalam menyelenggarakan pendidikan dan pengajaran, melaksanakan layanan, evaluasi pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat. Dalam membangun intelektual dan inovasi yang kedepannya ikut memajukan dan mengembangkan iptek, seni, dan budaya, sesuai tuntutan perubahan dan perkembangan zaman. Tanggung jawab inilah yang akan memacu peningkatan kualitas sumber daya manusia dengan menghasilkan lulusan yang mempunyai jiwa kemandirian dalam pengetahuan dalam berbagai bidang.
Dalam rangka mempersiapkan diri menjadi universitas unggulan, segala fasilitas pendukung telah disediakan dalam mendukung segala kegiatan agar menjadi tempat yang kondusif dalam kegiatan belajar, melakukan proses, dan mengembangkan diri serta meningkatkan mutu pendidikan.
Tidak hanya pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan di ruang lingkup kampus, Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak juga bekerja sama dengan berbagai pihak melalui program penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat, yang penerapan ilmunya dapat dirasakan masyarakat luas. Dengan pemberdayaan ini, membuat Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak semakin dekat dengan masyarakat, serta implementasi teknologi untuk mencapai efisiensi dan inovasi.
Lembaga Penelitian dan Pengabdian kepada Masyarakat Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak saat ini berada pada klaster kedua kinerja penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat di Indonesia. Dan Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak merupakan satu-satunya perguruan tinggi swasta di Kalimantan Barat yang berada pada kategori utama dan sangat bagus untuk kinerja penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat. Banyak hibah penelitian maupun pengabdian pada masyarakat yang berhasil kami raih baik dalam tingkat lokal, nasional maupun internasional. Saat ini yang sedang kami kerjakan adalah menyediakan listrik memanfaatkan aliran sungai untuk daerah pedalaman Kalimantan Barat yang belum terjamah oleh PLN. Kemudian kami juga bekerja sama dengan Uni Eropa dalam mengembangkan smart farmer, yaitu khususnya kelapa dengan memanfaatkan IoT.
Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak juga berkolaborasi dengan dunia pendidikan internasional seperti universitas-universitas di Asia Tenggara dan Eropa. Dengan adanya transfer knowledge antara dosen dan mahasiswa, sehingga meningkatkan kualitas SDM Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak yang berskala internasional.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kantor Urusan Internasional atau biasa disingkat dengan KUI atau International Relations Office Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak merupakan salah satu unit lembaga yang bergerak di bidang kerjasama internasional. Banyak sekali program yang sudah kami laksanakan, diantaranya guest lecture, kemudian lecture and students exchange, summer program, joint research, kemudian visiting professor, internship, cultural exchange program, dan masih banyak lagi yang mengindikasikan ada sebuah kerjasama yang erat antara Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak dan partner di luar negeri, khususnya di Asia Tenggara. KUI UM Pontianak bekerja sama dengan beberapa lembaga, diantaranya Cityfed dan Simeo, Asosiasi KUI PTMA dan KUI se-Indonesia, dengan harapan semoga dengan kerjasama ini membawa KUI UM Pontianak menjadi lebih baik.
Saat ini, Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak telah memiliki 7 fakultas dengan 16 program studi yang 2 diantaranya berada di Kabupaten Sintang yang bisa menjadi pilihan untuk bergabung di Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak. Dengan semangat menempatkan diri sebagai universitas terbaik dalam skala regional, nasional, dan internasional, dengan misi membagikan pengetahuan, inovasi, dan kreativitas yang berkeyakinan, serta berkomitmen dalam membangun untuk mencapai tujuan yang mulia, menjadikan masyarakat yang lebih baik.
Good morning, Pak Willy, Ibu Vinita.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Okay, I'm feeling good. How about you, Pak Willy?
I'm very good.
Okay,
Good
Ibu
morning.
Vinita.
Greeting
Hello.
from Singapore. Hey, Vinita is here.
Hello, Pak Willy. How are you?
Good. Always good to see you.
Great to be in the same stage with you again.
Are you at home or on campus or?
Right now, still at home, but after finishing this, and I have to go to campus. We are back
Good.
to campus now.
You're back to face-to-face.
Yeah.
Sessions. That's good. Oh, we've got Bu Eka as well here.
Yeah, Bu Eka is always everywhere.
She is everywhere. I think I need to try my PowerPoint slides, see if it works. I think you should try that too, Vinita.
Yes, Pak. Thanks.
There you go. Working? Yeah.
Yep.
Looking good. Okay.
May I try sharing my screen?
Yes, I think
Sure,
you
Ibu.
should.
Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, very clear, Ibu Vini.
But I can't see the birds. Where are the birds?
Somewhere.
You're supposed to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but I can't see the birds.
Okay, I think I have to add 1 or 2 or more.
Very nice title, infographics.
Thank you, Pak.
Okay, shall we start, Bapak Ibu, Ibu Ufi?
Good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Can we start now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, Muhammad ibn Abdillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa mawala. First of all, let's thanks to Allah who has given us some mercies and blessings so that we can attend this agenda without any obstacles. And secondly, salawat and salam may always be given to our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who has guided us from the darkness to the lightness. The Honorable, the Vice Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak, Dr. Eko Dewantoro, MSI, the Honorable, the speakers in this seminar, Bapak Dr. Willy Renandia from National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, the Honorable Ibu Dr. Vinita Dewi, SSMA from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, respectable the Committee of ELT Seminar from Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak, and all of the participants in this seminar, either in Zoom and YouTube. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the participants of this seminar, let me introduce myself. I'm Ufi Rohama. I'm the lecturer of Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak and will be the master ceremony this morning. Welcome to today's seminar on 28th of July 2022 in Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak, West Kalimantan. The title of today's ELT seminar is Reshaping the Future of English Language Teaching with Content Language Integrated Learning and Digital Technology. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the participants of this seminar, let me tell you some agendas for today. The first is opening. The second agenda is opening remarks. The third agenda is expert presentation for session 1 and question and answer. And after that, expert presentation for session 2 that will be continued by question and answer. And the last session is photo session and closing. Well, distinguished participants, let's open our seminar by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May God bless us after recite Basmalah. The second agenda, opening remarks. Let me invite our Vice Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak to Bapak Dr. Insinyur Eko Dewantoro, MSI. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Upi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalam wa salafil anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. The Honorable, the speaker in this seminar, Dr. Willy Renandia from National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technology University, Singapore. The Dr. Vinita Dewi, SMA from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. The Committee of ELT Seminar from Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak, and all of participants in this session. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to be part of seminar. I humbly present the seminar for you as meant to promote the quality of English language teaching and practice in Indonesia Higher Education Institute following the development of digital technology. This seminar is organized by Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak with the theme the reshaping the future of English language teaching and based on content language integration learning and digital technology. In current education life, English is inseparable from all fields of study, and new challenge of English language teaching have arisen due to the implementation of new curriculum Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka or MBKM and campus internationalization. English language teaching should go hand in hand with other disciplines such as STEM and other social science. Therefore, we expect this seminar will posit new ideas on how English should be taught based on content, language, integrated learning, and digital technology. I express my appreciation and gratitude to invite speakers, Dr. Willy Renandia from Nanyang Technology University and Dr. Vinita Dewi from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia for their keenness to share the expertise and experiences. I'm confident that you will find new ideas and novel perspective to sustain your effort in today's English language teaching and practice. I wish you all a very successful seminar. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the speech, Dr. Eko Dewantoro. All right, the distinguished participants, now we proceed to the seminar agenda. We have two sessions here, everyone. So the first presentation will be delivered by Bapak Dr. Willy Renandia, and also this agenda will be guided by Ibu Riani Yulian, MPD, as a moderator. We invite the distinguished speaker and also the moderator. Please welcome Ibu Riani Yulian, MPD, to moderate the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ufi, as the master of ceremony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all distinguished participants. Thank you for joining this webinar. And I'm Riani Yulian, will be the moderator for this session. We come to the main part of this seminar, that is our expert presentation. Our first speaker is Dr. Willy Renandia. Good morning, Dr. Willy.
Morning.
Okay, it's a great pleasure for us to have you here on this seminar. Before Dr. Willy present his presentation, his talk, I will briefly explain about his curriculum vitae. So Dr. Willy has a Master of Art in TESOL and a PhD in Educational Psychology. He is a language teacher educator, currently teaching applied linguistic courses at the National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. He has taught in many parts of Asia, including Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. His teaching and research interests include second and foreign language pedagogy, extensive reading, language testing, and curriculum development. He has published research articles in international journals, authored an ESL textbook, and edited numerous books and anthologies. He is also a frequent invited speaker at international conferences in Asia. Last but not least, he maintains an active language teacher professional development forum called Teacher Voices, which I believe that most of us are the member of this group. So Dr. Willy will talk about 30 minutes, and then there will be followed by Q&A for about 20 minutes. So for all participants, feel free to ask questions by raising your hand in the end of the session, or you can also drop your questions in the chat box. So please welcome our speaker, Dr. Willy. To Pak Willy, the time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ibu Riani. Pak Rektor, thank you for being with us. And thank you for giving us such a nice opening remark today. Ibu Riani, thank you again for the introduction. I think I need to mention.
My pleasure, Pak.
I need to mention that my undergraduate degree is from IKIP Sanata Dharma, Yogyakarta.
Okay.
I think that
Thank you,
information
Pak.
is very important. I did my undergraduate study in Indonesia, and also I did my doctorandus also in the same university, IKIP Sanata Dharma. I don't know how many of you have that degree, doctorandus and doctoranda. If you are a doctoranda or doctorandus, then I know that you are about the same age as me, because nowadays people do not have that degree anymore, either S1, S2, S3, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say one or two sentences by means of introduction about my university. This is my university, located in Singapore. Nanyang Technological University is a very good university. And the reason I'm showing you this is that this university is an LPDP approved university. So if you are thinking of doing your graduate studies overseas, I would recommend that you consider NTU, Nanyang Technological University, as one of your potential destinations. And at the moment, I have a number of LPDP recipients, beasiswa dari pemerintah Indonesia, who are doing their doctorate in mathematics, doctorate in history, humanities, and also in curriculum and instruction, and also one in language education. I belong to the Faculty of Education, Fakultas Pendidikan, and locally it's called the National Institute of Education. It's the best teacher education in Singapore. And Singapore is so small, and my faculty is only one, the only one teacher training institution. That's why it's number one in Singapore, not in the world yet. And we offer a master's program in applied linguistics, and in English language education, and also doctoral programs in the PhD and
recording in progress
in education as well. So I do hope that you will be thinking about NTU or NIE when you are thinking about doing your further studies in the future. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. Ibu Riani, I would very much like to welcome you to NIE if you are thinking of applying for an LPDP scholarship. Ladies and gentlemen, today I will be sharing with you some ideas about how we can use technology in the best possible way. Since many of you, or all of you, are English language teachers, so I am going to share with you some ideas about how we can use technology to, in particular, to improve, to increase, to enhance the English language proficiency of our students. Technology can be used for many other purposes. Yeah, but today my focus will be in particular on how we can use technology to increase the proficiency level of our students. Let me start off by sharing some of the things that you already know. I think today, I don't think we can live without technology. The moment we open our eyes in the morning, the mobile gadget is already in front of you. You'll be checking a lot of things from the internet. It is part of your life. The next question is, can we teach without technology? The answer is, we used to be able to do that. Like before the pandemic, we used to go into the classroom and teach our students without using any technology, a small amount of technology, like PowerPoint projector and things like that, or maybe the computer. But now, I think during the pandemic, we have no choice, but we have to use a lot of technology. What about after the pandemic? I think Vinita Devi will tell you, after the pandemic, we will have to continue to use technology to engage our students, to get the students to learn more in the classroom with your help and also with the help of technology. The questions that I have for you is this. Is it always the case that your students become more motivated when they learn English with technology? Buriani, you can answer this question by turning on your microphone. Do you think your students become more motivated when they learn English with you using technology? Yes, no, maybe?
Maybe,
Yes.
Dr. Willy.
Yes, of
Maybe.
course, of course.
Depends on the situation, Pak Willy.
Maybe yes. If I ask Finita Dewi, the answer is yes, absolutely, no question, no doubt. She is an expert on the use of technology, and she knows how to engage her students using technology. The next question that I'm going to discuss with you today is this: do your students, or have you noticed your students becoming more fluent and more confident users of English as a result of you teaching your students using technology? Yes? No? Maybe? We don't know yet. Finita Devi, you can answer that question.
Yes, Pak Willy, they can be motivated.
Do they become more fluent? Do they become more confident users of English? Bahasa Inggrisnya kemudian meningkat dengan pesat dari A1 menjadi C2 begitu. Will that happen? Maybe, slowly, gradually. It may happen if and only if you use technology in the right way. For the past few years, Bapak Ibu sekalian, I think we have been listening, we've been hearing a lot about how technology can transform, can change the way we do things in the classroom. It can transform learning, it can transform language learning, it can enhance language learning, and it can also support the way we do things in the classroom. Hopefully, we can become better, a better teacher, a more effective teacher when we use technology to engage our students in the classroom. The big question for us is, do we have sufficient empirical evidence? Apakah ada sudah cukup bukti-bukti empiris yang menunjukkan, that shows that the use of technology can actually improve the quality of our teaching, can improve the quality of interaction that happens in the classroom between the students and between the teachers and the students. That is something that I want to share with you. Yeah, let's look at a study together. This is a piece of research that was done recently, and the topic I think is very interesting. Yeah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, the more technology, is that better? If we use more technology, will that result in better quality interactions in the classroom? Or does it make a difference whether you use more technology or whether you use fewer technology in the classroom? The study was interesting because it was done in a small town in China. And as you know, just like in China, in Indonesia, there are many places where teachers are still learning how to use technology, where teachers teach in small towns, not like Finita Dewi. She teaches in a big town, big city like Bandung. And very soon there'll be an express train from Jakarta to Bandung as well. So the context of the study is this: primary schools in villages, in small towns in China. And the researcher was observing two groups of teachers. One group of teachers used a number of strategies, a lot of technology, and the other group used a smaller amount of technology in the classroom. What the researchers were interested in was, what was the quality of the lesson that happens in the classroom? And in terms of quality, we can examine, we can look at the quality of interaction between the teachers and the students, and also among the students during the lesson. I hope that is clear for all of us. What do you think the results were like in Buriani? The results, those teachers who use more technology and those teachers who use less technology, the same, different?
Maybe slightly different, Pak Willy.
Maybe slightly different. The results, interestingly, the results are onaji. In bahasa Jepang itu onaji is the same. Sami mawon. Bahasa Jawanya sami mawon. It's the same. There's no difference between the two classes taught by teachers who use more technology and classes taught by teachers who use less technology. There's minimal use of English. Remember, in the classroom, In an English language classroom, we want to see students using a lot more English, right? And we want to see the teachers using a lot more English as well in the classroom. Does it happen? No, it doesn't. 2, the kind of questions. When you interact with your students, you use a lot of questions, right? Now, the level of questions that the teachers ask continue to be very low level, basic referential display questions. Nothing that engage students in deeper thinking about what is happening in the lesson. And the kind of feedback is an important part of your lesson, yeah, is very small as well. So this is one example of a study, an empirical study that shows that technology alone, whether you use a lot of technology or whether you use a little bit of technology, doesn't seem to make any difference. Kayaknya nggak ada bedanya tuh. Maybe it's because of the way you use technology, which is the theme that I'm going to develop today. Now here is another bigger piece of research. Yang ini lebih gede penelitiannya. And in this study, the title is Technologies for Foreign Language Learning, a review of technology types and their effectiveness. And the researchers, here's the context of the study. The researchers summarized. What is summarized in Bahasa Indonesia, Finita? Summarize means merangkum.
Merangkum.
Ya, merangkum. That's the word. Merangkum kira-kira 350 empirical studies that involve the use of technology in foreign language classrooms, like mengajar bahasa Inggris di China, di Thailand, di Indonesia maybe, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And to compare teachers who use traditional way of teaching and also teachers who use technology for their teaching. Yeah, the context is very clear, I hope. The result, Buriani, the same, different, maybe? Or is it onaji? The results are pretty much onaji, bahasa Jepangnya onaji. Yeah. Overall, secara keseluruhan, the effect of technology is limited. Remember, this is the context of English language learning, whether or not the students make improvement. Overall, limited. Ada beberapa yang menunjukkan hasilnya cukup positif, but by and large, very small. But there is good news. The good news is that if you are thinking about helping your students to improve on their pronunciation, kemampuan, what is pronunciation? Melafalkan kata-kata dalam bahasa Inggris, then technology is a very, very good tool. I hope Finita Dewi will share with you some of the tools that your students can use in order to help them improve on their pronunciation. Another piece of good news is this. If you want the students to be producing more language, English, then technology might be very, very useful. When you use the chat room, for example, then the students are more willing to communicate in writing. Speaking, not always, but in writing, yes, they become a little bit more chatty. So, question for everyone. And I'm going to ask the same questions 3 times, 3 kali. This is the first question for us, yeah? I would like to ask you to respond to this question together. Can technology enhance language learning? Yes, no, or maybe? Please turn on your microphone and say it together. Yes, no, or maybe? Buriani.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely, sir.
Okay, let's see. Yes. But based on the 2 studies that I shared with you, the effect is quite small, isn't it? Ya, dari data yang saya paparkan tadi, itu kayaknya the effect of technology is quite small. So up to now, I would like you to think about the small effect of technology in language learning. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you 3 major points. 3 hal yang sangat-sangat penting. What happens if you use technology, but your pedagogical approaches remain the same? Number 2, What happens if you use technology and your use of technology is informed by a good set of pedagogical principles? Yang nomor 2. Yang ketiga adalah, hey, what if you use technology and you are very, very confident about applying ELT, pedagogical principles. Yang nomor 3 lebih khusus ya, lebih khusus mengenai prinsip-prinsip proses belajar bahasa Inggris. Yang kedua, general principles for teaching. So these are 3 things that we're going to look at together. Number 1, so using technology, but there is no change in pedagogy. Now here are some examples. Number 1, you are simply substituting what you used to do without technology, but this time you are using technology. In the past, for example, you use printed materials, but now you are using digital materials. But the way you teach remains the same. Kalau dulu dicetak, begitu difotokopi, sekarang adalah pakai Google Form misalnya. Or many other digital materials that you're using in the classroom. There's no major change in the way you teach. Maybe now you are asking your students to use grammar check application, for example. But that is just using technology for the sake of using technology and not accompanied by sound principles of language teaching. And some people get very excited and they start asking questions like this. Kalau siswa itu membaca digital text, apakah itu berarti the students will learn more, will get more out of the text? I think that is a serious question. In other words, like this one. Yeah. Do you get more from reading ebooks, or do you get more information from reading the usual printed hard copy kind of books? Answer, which one results in deeper comprehension? Any thoughts about this? Your experience?
Printed.
Printed, yes. Yes, apparently there have been a number of empirical studies, sudah cukup banyak penelitian yang menunjukkan if you want the students to get the most out of their reading, to get them to be more thinking, more mindful, more thoughtful, more critical, then print books are better. At least up to now, research tells us. But for reading, for entertainment, reading novels misalnya, atau berita-berita ringan, it doesn't make a difference. Both are equally good. The reason printed materials can result in better and deeper comprehension is that, when you read printed materials, you are not likely to be distracted. There isn't a lot of distractions, but when you read online, there may be a lot of distractions. Messages appearing on your screen, and then Finita Dewi sending you a lot of messages along the way, and that can be very difficult for you to focus, to concentrate. Yeah. So printed book is, as of now, printed book is more powerful in helping our students to read with deeper level of comprehension. These are some examples of the kind of things that some of you may be doing. You use technology, but no change in pedagogy. For example, you used to be teaching grammar in this way. Yeah, left-hand side. And now you are using technology in order to present the same piece of information. For example, teaching subjunctive clauses, and then you provide an explanation to the students, like 15 minutes explanation about what subjunctive clause is and when it is used and how to go about using it and things like that. That's what you did in the past, but now you're doing it using technology. But essentially, there's no change in the pedagogical principles behind it. In other words, you continue teaching language as knowledge, and you're not teaching language as ability. These are 2 different things, yeah? Please ask me this question later during the Q&A. What is the difference between teaching language as knowledge and teaching language as ability? Those are 2 different things, yeah? Okay, what are some of the reasons that teachers continue to do their teaching with technology in this way without no important, significant changes in the pedagogical, considerations. Number one is that they have no time. Teachers are very busy people. They just, when technology comes, they simply have to use it. No choice. Yeah, they simply have to use it, and they don't have time. And maybe they don't know how to use technology appropriately. And because of that, we are happy today because Vinita Devi is here with us, and she's going to tell us a lot about how to use technology, more appropriately. Question again for us. Yeah, if you use technology, but no change in pedagogy or very little change in the way you use technology, will that result in improvement in proficiency in your students? Answer again, please. Ibu Riani is the only student that I have today. So Ibu Riani, please answer. Yes, no, maybe?
Maybe, Pak, sorry.
I'm glad. Yes, I'm glad you're saying maybe, because what I'm getting at here is that technology is a tool. Technology itu alat, yeah? And how we use technology is very, very important. In other words, the pedagogy becomes the determining factor in terms of whether the students learn a lot or a little from you. So right now, we should say maybe, or I would tend to say no. So between no and maybe, yeah? Definitely not yes. Okay, part 2. Technology. Now you use technology now in the classroom, but the use of technology is accompanied by a good set of pedagogical principles. Ini adalah prinsip-prinsip belajar umum pada umumnya. In other words, the use of technology is informed by educational principles. Prinsip-prinsip pendidikan, prinsip-prinsip belajar mengajar pada umumnya itu apa? Kayaknya ada beberapa yang penting yang perlu kita ketahui bersama. Saya yakin Bapak Ibu sudah tahu sih, but I will sort of repeat some of the most important prinsip-prinsip belajar di kelas maupun di luar kelas. Ya, ada 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ada 5 ini. There are 5. There may be more. Yeah, Vinita, please add more if you can think of anything. Number 1 is this, personalized learning. Yeah, a teacher's job is greatly facilitated. The way you teach will result in more learning if you are able to address the needs of your students, the needs of your individual students. So there has to be some degree of personalization. Tidak bisa hanya looking at your students as a group. You have to understand the needs of your students, and you can then try to address their needs to the best of your ability. And technology, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful tool that can help you to address, to cater for the needs of your individual students. Point number 2, another big principle is engaged learning. Engaged learning has to do with motivation. Are your students motivated? When they do something in the classroom, are they doing it really seriously? And some people have suggested that effective teachers, seorang guru yang effective, yang efficient, they are able to engage 90% of the students 90% of the time. 100%, is that possible? Usually not possible. So 90% is good enough. Slightly below 90 is also okay. So what is important is not what you teach, but what is important is, hey, whether my students are actually doing the kind of learning that they are supposed to be doing. In other words, are they engaged? Are they involved? Are they fully invested in the lesson? Prinsip yang sangat-sangat penting. Apapun yang kita ajar, bahasa Inggris atau sciences, matematika, dan sebagainya. Yang ketiga adalah authentic learning. Authentic learning has to do with whether or not what we teach actually is relevant in the outside world. Yeah. If the students are able to see that what they are learning in the classroom is useful outside the classroom, I think chances are higher that your students will be more motivated, will want to learn more, will be more serious in your classroom. Another important principle is feedback. The type, the quality, the frequency of the feedback that you provide to your students is very important. Some people say that teaching is important, but some other people like me actually are saying that feedback is probably more important than the initial teaching that you did. Because feedback adalah kesempatan yang luar biasa pentingnya agar siswa itu bisa belajar kembali, mengulangi apa yang sudah mereka dapat mungkin minggu lalu. So relearning is a great opportunity to relearn the materials. And finally, collaborative learning. Again, this is one of the most important principles in education today. The amount of student interaction in the classroom. Now, interaction means that the students will have to work together socially. Yeah, I'm sure many of you have heard about social constructivism. Pasti udah dengar ya, social constructivism. And that is how people learn, and that's how your students learn. So if you are able to use technology that engage students in collaborative work, in producing infographic in a group, for example, I think Vanita is going to say that later. Yeah, working together in group, project-based learning, problem-based learning, and things like that, I think you'll be applying a lot of very, very good educational principles. Now, here is something for us to remember. To improve education, ini pada umumnya ya, to improve education, focus on pedagogy and not technology. And this is exactly what I said earlier on. Technology is important, but more important than technology is how we use technology, the pedagogical, things that we do. Yeah, I think we all agree that this is a very, very good thing to remember. More question again. As I said earlier on, I'll be asking you the same questions. This is to give you a thinking break. Bu Riani Juliani. If you use technology in this way, informed by a good set of educational principles, seperti personalization, collaboration, and then authentic learning, engagement, and all that, will the students' English language proficiency improve? Buriani?
Yes, Pak Willy, because it needs extra efforts based on your explanation.
I disagree. The answer is maybe. Karena prinsip-prinsip belajar yang kita pakai itu adalah prinsip-prinsip belajar yang applicable to any kind of learning. Tidak khusus mengenai proses belajar bahasa. And that is where we are going to move on now. Now we are going to look at this. Oh, sorry. This picture is supposed to be, if you say yes, I will agree with you, but you have to pray very hard so that the students improve on their proficiency. So the next one is this, the use of technology with ELT pedagogy. I hope you can follow the thinking that I have about my presentation today. Yang pertama adalah asal pakai aja teknologi begitu. Yang kedua, memakai teknologi tetapi dengan didampingi oleh prinsip-prinsip belajar pada umumnya. Yang ketiga adalah using technology but it is informed by a set of English language teaching or English language learning pedagogical principles. Okay? Ya. Prinsip-prinsip belajar bahasa banyak sekali. Hari ini, I will just share with you tiga saja. I think these are three of the most important. 3L. The first L is language input. The second L is language processing. And the last L is language use. 3L ya. L yang pertama adalah language input. And technology, Bapak Ibu sekalian, technology is an excellent tool for you to provide students with a massive amount of input. Yeah. Essentially, language input dalam hal ini adalah bahasa Inggris ya. The kind of information written in the English language now is available, and technology makes that easily available for you 24 hours a day. So I think you have to make use of that if you are seriously, are thinking about improving your students' proficiency. Teori proses belajar mengajar mengatakan dengan jelas sekali, tidak ada yang tidak setuju, tidak ada yang menyangkal bahwa input adalah a precondition, a sine qua non adalah prakondisi to language development, to language proficiency. Without language input, you can't improve your students' English language proficiency. In other words, no input, no learning. If you have difficulty understanding the concept of input, I think an analogy might help. A child, if you have a small child, a young child at home, the child needs a lot of asupan, input, dietary input, berupa makanan. In the same way, dalam proses belajar bahasa, our students need a lot of asupan, and that asupan is language asupan, from listening, from reading, from watching movies, and things like that. Okay? So input is linguistic nutrition that the students need to develop their language proficiency. It's just a click away. Yeah. Ebooks, graded readers, TED talks, Netflix, talk shows, they're available, massively available these days. And if you are thinking about content, language integrated teaching, or CLIL, C-L-I-L, content, language integrated language teaching, instruction, then you need to include a lot of contents. And contents nowadays are available, very easy for you to access and to maybe to download as well. And I like TED in particular because there are thousands and thousands of materials like this one. Yeah. If you want to find out something about chemistry, for example, here you go. You can watch a TED talk show. You can use this for your teaching material. Here, engineering. Another one, business. So there's a lot of contents that are available for us to use. If you are doing psychology or education, this is a great, PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, video presentation. Here's another one. Yeah, and there are many others that you can explore, and they're all available at your fingertips. Most of these videos are freely available these days. Wonderful contents, important and interesting contents as well. You just need to go to Google and find video websites or video materials that you can use for teaching purposes. Please ask me one question later. But these videos are not easy for my students to understand. Please ask me that question later, yeah? And Fineta Devi is going to respond to that question later. How can we use technology? How can we leverage on technology to help our students to understand video presentations that are a little bit difficult for them to understand? It's a very important question. Yeah, so a little bit about, research support or theoretical support for the importance of input in language education. Nutrisi bahasa. This is from a professor from the University of Hawaii. And this is what he says about the importance of reading, receiving a lot of input through reading. Let me read to you very quickly. Good things happen to students who read a great deal. Read bisa diganti dengan who view, watch movies a great deal in the foreign language. Research studies show very clearly that they become better, they become more confident readers, they become better writers, and their listening and speaking abilities also improve a great deal. So if you're looking for anything about helping your students to improve, then you have to provide students with a lot of language input. I hope that makes sense, yeah? But some of you may be asking, yeah, but where do we get the materials? As I said, the internet, Google's. Now, here is an example. Storyline Online. 24-hour available for you to enjoy, for your students to watch as well. They can listen to a lot of interesting, wonderful stories read aloud by movie actors, by prominent business people, by politicians, by leaders, political leaders, and so on and so forth. Closer to home, Books for Asia, funded by the Asia Foundation. It has a lot of interesting, culturally appropriate stories for young children like this one, all free. You can download it for free. So don't say that, well, it's difficult to find materials. No, they're very easy to find materials actually. Yeah, even materials in Bahasa Indonesia, stories in Bahasa Indonesia are easy to find nowadays. Dikti itu punya situs-situs collections of storybooks in Bahasa Indonesia as part of the national literacy movement. Listening materials, again, digital listening and viewing materials available for free, 24 hours a day. And this one has thousands and thousands of free materials for you to use and download, ELLO. Okay. If you don't have much time, because teachers are usually very busy people, but you have money and are willing to spend a small amount of money to get your students to enjoy a lot of interesting, useful reading and listening materials, I would recommend that you subscribe to this library. This is a digital library. It comes complete with an LSM, learning management system, where the students can, when the teachers can monitor, can help the students to find suitable materials and all that. The name of the program is called X Reading. Buriani, if you're interested, I can put you in contact with the person who owns this program. It's called X Reading. No free, it's not free, because the materials are all copyrighted materials from publishers. Jadi tidak mungkin free, tidak mungkin, harus membayar. And it's not very much either. Let me know. Number 2 is language processing. First is L1 is language input. Number 2 is language processing. I think input alone is not enough. We need to remember, I think this is one question that I raised early on, that the language, the content will have to be accessible. The content will have to be comprehensible. Anything that is not comprehensible, the students will not learn very much. Yeah. So the language will have to be at the student's level or below the student's level, and the contents will have to be super, super interesting. If the contents are not interesting, the students will fall asleep, and the teachers will fall asleep as well. So you need to be very careful when you choose materials for your students. Yeah. And the process of learning, the process of language learning, involves a lot of consolidation, konsolidasi. They learned something last week. Unless they get an opportunity to relearn, to see again the vocabulary and the grammatical structures, I think they will not be able to develop, a strong linguistic foundation in their head. So consolidation is an important part of language learning. It needs 1 year, 2 years, or maybe 3 years of consolidation and reorganization for the students to fully develop, strong confidence and competence in the language. Now, here are some examples. Yeah, if the contents are magical, that's what happens. You will spend the whole night actually reading or watching movies. I remember when I was younger, I spent my university days in Yogyakarta. And I live in a boarding house, in rumah kos-kosan, kebetulan ada taman bacaan. And every night I would jump over the wall and borrowed without paying, hundreds and hundreds of comic books. And I would spend the whole night watching and reading comic books because the contents are so interesting. Now, here are some examples of people who have developed a high level of English language proficiency because they spend a lot of time doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of watching, doing a lot of viewing of video materials on the internet. Yeah. The girl is from Korea. The other girl in the middle is from Thailand. And the boy down below is from Vietnam. And you also got some teachers as well from Indonesia. I think some of you may probably know Ibu siapa ini namanya? Maria Francisca and Ibu Laksmita from Yogyakarta. Now, these are things that I enjoy watching. Some I've watched like 3 or 4 or 5 times because I like them very much. Yeah. And this is the kind of things that you also want to help your students to find. Finding relevant, interesting, magical materials so that they spend a lot of time doing it. And as a result, they'll be doing a lot of learning in their head, a lot of consolidation, a lot of reorganization, a lot of relearning of the materials. But what do we learn from input actually, Bapak Ibu sekalian? What do you learn? Vocabulary, grammar, or both?
Mostly vocabulary.
Too fast. I was about to help you with the answer. The answer is both. Jawabannya adalah dua-duanya. Vocabulary and grammar at the same time. Ini namanya lexical grammar namanya. Jadi ada lexis, ada grammar at the same time. And this is what I mean by lexical grammar. It's known as lexical chunks, lexical bundles, fixed expressions, and so on and so forth. Contohnya ini. Make do with. Itu menjadi satu ya, nggak bisa dipisah-pisah. Make up to you. Jadi satu. They go together. More, make fun of me. They come together as a phrase. Make my day. Again, this word combination usually, most always come together. Make up your mind. Yeah. More example here. This one is on me. This one is on me itu grammarnya ya itu dan kata-katanya juga itu. This one is on me. It's almost always like that. This one is on me. Ibu Riani, when I visit you in Pontianak next year, and you take me to dinner, misalnya begitu, and you say, Pak Willy, dinner is on me. Artinya Ibu Riani yang bayarin gitu. Dinner is on me. Comes together. When I go to Bandung, Finita Dewi will say, Pak Willy, dinner is on me. It was lovely to see you. Thanks for coming. I'll be making a move then. I see what you mean. Let me think about it. Masih banyak lagi nih. I don't believe a word of it. And this is what you learn. The grammar and the words together. Namanya lexical bundles. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. Bapak Ibu sekalian, if you continue to teach grammar the way you usually do, I think you are not doing a good job. Because that's not how students learn. That's not how we learn the language. We learn the language like this. We learn the grammar and the vocabulary at the same time. And when do you get it from? From doing a lot of reading, from doing a lot of watching of movies. And research tells us that proficient speakers, good speakers, competent speakers, they have thousands and thousands of these expressions that they can use at the tip of your fingertip. They can use just like that without thinking. Yeah, I think that is very important for us to remember. Number 3, language use. So the first one, L1, is language input. Number 2 is language processing. Yang ketiga adalah language use. Language use artinya we have to use it. After you have learned a lot of lexical expressions, grammatical features in the language, you have to use it. And technology, again, is excellent tools for your students to be using the language so that they can develop their fluency and so that they can develop their accuracy. There's no other way for you to develop this ability unless you do it again and again and again and again. 1 million times, basically. If you have done it many, many times, then you are likely to be able to speak with fluency and with accuracy as well. Look at this person on the left-hand side, sedang latihan ya. Mas yang sedang latihan sebelah kiri itu sudah bisa bermain badminton. Bahkan seorang yang punya prestasi yang sangat baik sebetulnya. But what is he doing here? He is practicing. He is doing the same thing again and again and again and again until he is able to hit the shuttlecock very quickly, very fast, and also very accurately. Bisa ditempatkan di mana saja bola itu. And that is what I mean by again and again and again. Practice is something that the student will have to do. There's no other way. And again, technology is a wonderful, wonderful tool for your students to develop, proficiency, fluency, and accuracy in language learning. Yeah, so these are things that can happen after you have done a lot of practice. You become fluent in reading, fluent in listening, fluent in speaking, and fluent in writing. All these things become very, very applicable. Ini bagian yang terakhir ini, Ibu Riani, are you still with me? Yes? Good.
Yes, of course, Pak.
Very good. People learn to read by reading. Betul ya, Bu ya? Betul.
Definitely.
Yes, people learn to speak by speaking, right? Okay, the next one, please finish my sentence. People learn to listen by
listening.
Very good, excellent. And the last one, people learn to write by
writing.
Okay, that is the principle of developing fluency and accuracy in the language. Bapak Ibu sekalian, 3 things, 3 L's that we have just looked at together: language input, language processing, and language use. If you use technology that provides students with a lot of opportunities to receive a lot of language input, meaningful, magical language input, and for students to consolidate what they have learned from their input and also allow students to use the language repeatedly, will students be able to improve on their language proficiency? Answer please, yes, no, or maybe?
Yes, Pak.
Yes, the answer is
third question.
Definitely yes. Yeah, Bapak Ibu ingat ya Bu ya. So technology, Bapak Ibu sekalian, is here to stay. You cannot say I don't like technology. You have to learn how to. You don't have to fall in love with technology, but you have to know enough technology to help you improve the quality of your teaching. Yep. So and today I've shared with you that technology should not be used without good pedagogy, and more importantly, technology should be used with a good set of English language learning pedagogy or pedagogical principles like L1, L2, and L3. So can technology improve language learning? Please, all of you, please say yes, we can. Free gift for you. You can download all these free materials from my website. And the name of the website is Willy's ELT Corner. It's myname.com. Yep. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And I'll be very happy to take any questions. Easy questions for me and difficult questions for Finita Dewi.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Willy, for sharing a very insightful ideas. Actually, we have 2 questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is from Aris Utomo from Mulawarman University. The question is, what do you suggest for implementing language learning technology in Indonesia ideally? Because we know that in Indonesia, the area of Indonesia has different characteristic and geographic condition.
Okay, now this is the kind of question that is very, very good for Finita Dewi. I think she is very familiar with a lot of technological tools. If you ask me, I will just say, very simple technology, like watching movie. You just need a computer, you just need a video, player, you just need a video screen. I mean, that is the most simple technology that is available in almost every home, or even a very simple mobile phone that everyone has. I think with this gadget, you can access a lot of interesting, meaningful, magical, language, English from the internet. And you have to do it. You have to watch it. You have to do it on a regular basis. You have to listen to it. You have to view it. And after a while, bam, your language proficiency will improve. Do you need the teachers then? Yes, you do. The teachers will need to help you, to guide you, finding the right kind of materials, helping you with some of the language issues that you might have. So for Indonesia, or for any other countries, the easiest, the simplest technology that you need is a mobile gadget and internet access. That's all. Other tools, yes, they're available. And other tools, I think Vinita Devi is going to share with you some other tools later, like Flipgrid, for example, can be very useful for language use, for speaking, or a simple video or audio recording or video recording materials can also be very useful for your students. It's cheap, it's available, it's free. Vinita, do you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, because the question is related to the characteristic different geographic situation, then maybe you need to think of, do you need a high bandwidth technology, a medium or low bandwidth technology?
Very good. Yes, yes.
Then after you decide that the kind of situation that you have, then we can decide what kind of technology that we are going to need. Well, actually, if looking at Pak Willy's explanation on input processing and use, when you need lots and lots of input, then you can use just YouTube or TikTok, which is actually, it's really not really low technology, but we don't need a lot of data and we don't need a sophisticated gadget to access YouTube. Then I think it is still accessible, right?
Yeah, excellent point. Yes.
Thank you, Pak Willy.
Yes, if you don't have a lot of money or your students don't have a lot of quota, for example, instead of watching YouTube online, you can download it. You can download it and then you can watch it on your mobile gadget, and that will cost nothing. What you need is knowledge about how to download. Very easy nowadays. Just go to the internet and then you search Google how to download YouTube materials. And there's a lot of program that can help you download materials. And then you can watch it at night or in the morning, on the bus, on the train. And there's no, internet costs as well, because it's just a video thing that you watch on your gadget. Yeah, so Finita has a very good point. Low bandwidth, high bandwidth, yes, that can be very important considerations for students, especially students coming from the lower socioeconomic status.
Okay, Pak Willy, we have participant who raised question. I saw Pak Rido. Feel free to ask question directly to Pak Willy.
Yes, direct question is good.
Okay, Pak, are you still there? Okay, I'm afraid that. Okay, maybe I will see the question on the chat box while waiting for a participant. You can ask question directly to Pak Willy.
Yeah.
Dear participants, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. Mr. Abbas.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah. Activate your audio. Oh, Pak Rido. Pak Rido is already here. Maybe the first one is Pak Rido, and then Pak Abbas from. And okay, Pak Rido, go ahead.
Yes, Pak Rido.
Okay, please mute yourself. Okay, ready?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Dr. Willy. It's nice to attend this conference. Well, I'm Rido. I'm the teacher of mahasiswa keperawatan, Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Keperawatan, Nursing School in Pontianak, Pak Willy.
Yeah.
Well, my question is probably can you explain a little bit more about consolidation in consolidations? Sorry, for the children or adult learning language. The second one is which one teaching or learning between the technique or method or the motivation from the teachers? Thank you, Doctor.
It's a very good question. Let me just respond to the last part, motivation. Extremely important, factor in learning. Any kind of learning, belajar bahasa atau belajar apapun, motivation is very important. And what I've heard very often is that my students are not motivated. Well, one thing that we can do in order to motivate our students, this is according to research and according to my own experience, is that we need to change the way we teach. We need to improve on the quality of our teaching. If the quality of your teaching is amazing, there's no reason for your students to not be motivated in the classroom. Now, what do I mean by quality of your teaching? Number one, the way you teach, your teaching methodology. I think you need to use the kind of teaching approaches, methodology that your students can relate to. The kind of teaching that is lecture style, which is still very popular. Dimanapun itu saya melihat guru paling senang berdiri setengah jam dan memberi ceramah. And that is the worst kind of method. Worst. And today we have to break your lesson into small, bite-sized chunks. And every 10 minutes, you should allow your students to respond, to participate in the lesson, in building, in constructing the content of the lesson together with you. So that is the first one. Your teaching method will have to be different, will have to be more effective, will have to be something that your students can relate to. T yang kedua adalah teaching materials. Materi yang kita pakai. Extremely important. If the materials are of no interest to your students, that's the end. Even before you start, that's the end of your lesson, basically. You need to find materials that are really, really, really interesting and exciting for your students. Even if the materials are not exciting, I think you need to create the environment, the situation, so that the students become more curious in reading or in listening, in watching a video that you have presented. T yang ketiga adalah task. Yang pertama adalah tadi apa ya? Teaching method, yang kedua adalah teaching materials, yang ketiga adalah tasks. Task itu berkaitan dengan aktivitas, tugas, pekerjaan yang mestinya dilakukan oleh siswa di kelas. Your task will have to be cognitively interesting and also emotionally engaging. A task that makes your students think a little bit because they enjoy solving problems, for example, and a task that is relevant and hopefully also authentic. Remember what I said earlier on, you know, if the students can see the relationship between what they do in the classroom and what really happens outside the classroom, chances are higher that your students will be more interested, motivated in learning. 3. Yang keempat, T yang keempat adalah the test. The kind of test that we use itu sudah dated, sudah archaic. I think we should move away from a test that really, really put the students in a lot of stress. The test that you give at the end of the semester, that should be only a small part of the assessment that you do. Maybe hanya 20% begitu. Yang 80% itu harusnya adalah the kind of assessment that is ongoing, yang berlangsung pada waktu on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Dengan demikian, siswa bisa melihat, oh, I see, every week I know that I've made improvement. Every week I know that I need to learn something else that I haven't learned before. Kira-kira begitu, Pak. Yang keempat. Yang terakhir, yang T yang terakhir adalah as Vinita Devi. The last T is technology. Technology is very interesting. If you use it nicely, if you know how to use technology, I think your students will enjoy learning a lot more from you. Remember that your students grow up with technology. They know how to use technology. Yeah, they are technology users. And the thing is that many of our students, or most of our students, are not technology learners. Mereka belum bisa belajar memakai teknologi. Mereka hanya pemakai teknologi, tapi belum bisa menjadi orang yang belajar memakai teknologi. Beda ya? I think people like us, we know how to use technology, and we know how to learn or to get information from technology as well. Our students are not very good at learning using technology. It's our job. It's our job to make it possible for our students to learn, to acquire information, to learn a lot of things from information that is available from the internet or from the classroom. Pak Ridho, maaf jawabannya agak panjang banget. But I think the key thing to remember is this: we need to change the way we teach. Our teaching is, when I say our teaching, itu termasuk saya nih. Our teaching is jadul. I think we have to change that. Yeah, our teaching is the way we teach is very jadul. If you smile, then you can relate with me. And my teaching also used to be very jadul as well. But I'm learning. I'm willing to learn, and I'm using technology quite a bit, not as much as Vinita Devi, but I use technology quite a bit to engage our students in the classroom. And I never speak nonstop in my classroom for more than 15 minutes. My presentation just now, I hope you remember, Ibu Riani, in my presentation, what happens? I ask you questions, yeah? Every now and then, one small chunk, I stop. I ask you questions. Why? Because I want to give you a break, and I want you to be thinking together with me. I want you to participate with me in understanding what I'm sharing with you. Itu metodologi, itu cara mengajar yang lebih baik dibanding dengan mengajar dengan cara metode kuliah ya. Metode kuliah itu harus dinyatakan dilarang, harus dinyatakan sebagai tindakan kriminal oleh Kementerian Kemenhumkam. Seriously, we should not be doing that. If you believe in the idea behind social constructivist learning, social constructivism, that is what you need to do. Never speak nonstop for more than 15 minutes to your students. They can't learn that way. It's not possible.
Okay, Pak Willy, we have the second participant, Pak Agus Purnomo. Please ask question directly to Pak Willy.
Pak Agus, please, easy question, Pak.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Willy.
I hope it is easy, Mr. Willy. Great to see you again, by the way, Mr. Willy. I have question related with technology and pedagogy, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that the second one is the use of technology with good pedagogy.
Yeah.
Will not get better result than teaching technology with ELT principle, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me the distinguished features that makes it different between general pedagogy and
good question.
ELT pedagogy?
Yes, good question. I'm glad that you asked. Teaching using technology plus good principles, good general education principles, itu applicable for any kind of teaching. Bapak mengajar mata kuliah apapun di luar bahasa Inggris ya, itu applicable gitu loh. When you teach mathematics, for example, you have to teach it in that way. When you teach selain matematika itu apa sih pelajaran di sekolah? Ilmu bumi misalnya, geography or biology or whatever, then you have to use all those principles because those principles are applicable for any kind of learning. Khusus untuk belajar bahasa, prinsip-prinsip besar tadi itu nggak cukup. Karena itu hanya proses belajar pada umumnya. If you want your students to improve on their English language proficiency, bahasanya yang meningkat, itu kita harus juga memakai prinsip-prinsip belajar dari literatur, proses belajar atau teori-teori bahasa Inggris, teori-teori pemerolehan bahasa. And I've shared with you 3, L1, L2, and L3. So in other words, you need to use good principles, general principles, and also using principles for language learning and language acquisition. Jadi tugas kita lebih berat sekarang. Tidak hanya prinsip-prinsip umum, tapi juga prinsip-prinsip belajar mengajar bahasa Inggris yang khusus mengenai bagaimana cara kita meningkatkan kemampuan berbahasa Inggris anak-anak kita. Kalau hanya dengan, mahasiswa saya motivasi semua, they are very motivated, but motivation alone is not enough for you to improve on your language proficiency. Nggak cukup. Motivation plus input. Motivation plus appropriate processing of the language. Motivation plus using frequently the language that you have learned the week before. Pak Agus, begitu?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question.
Sorry, one more. Is there any, general pedagogy that is not applicable in ELT? Is there any something that cannot be done in ELT? Is it something like that?
I think most, if not all, of the general pedagogical principles itu applicable untuk any kind of teaching, including teaching language in the classroom. Hampir semua kok. Yang baik ya, prinsip-prinsip yang bagus itu applicable.
Okay.
So what I'm saying today is that plus English language teaching or English language learning principles. Tanpa yang terakhir, itu siswanya mungkin ada yang bisa, tapi the majority will continue to be struggling in the English language. Karena teorinya jelas sekali mengatakan that you need a lot of language nutrition. Perlu nutrisi bahasa. Seorang anak yang lahir di rumah tangga, keluarga yang bahagia, tiap hari disayang, dikasihi, tapi nggak pernah dikasih makan. Nggak bisa lah anak itu tumbuh dengan baik. The same thing that I'm trying to say here. Yeah. Good principles of teaching, yes, they're applicable, but the students also need good diets, good nutrition, good linguistic nutrition on a regular basis. So that is what I want to share with you today.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Willy. It's crystal clear.
Very good. I like the crystal part.
Okay, Pak Willy, I think we can still accommodate one more question. I think this is the last question because of the limited time.
Yeah.
Please to Ibu Iin Indrayanti, you can activate your audio.
Yes, Bu Iin, my friend. From where? From Pontianak. Yes,
okay, good
Bu
morning,
Iin.
Pak Willy.
Yes.
And good morning also to the university. It's glad to have you in this meeting, and it's glad to meet you here in this camera. I read a lot of you from the Facebook and also the book. Actually, the question has been answered by you a bit by bit, but I don't know whether this is fits the question to you or perhaps to Ibu Vinita, because what do you need to consider or to be considered before we decide the right tech tools in the language learning for the first time, Pak?
Okay, I think Vinita can.
What needs to be considered, when we use the tech tool the first time in the language learning process? Thank you, Pak.
Yes, I think Vinita can help more of this a bit later. But my principle is, number one, the tool will have to be easy to use. Satu, harus mudah dipakai. If it takes you like 1 whole hour to learn how to use the tech tool, forget it. It has to be very easy for you to use, and it has to be very easy for your students to use as well. Ini prinsip umum ya. Yang kedua, free. It has to be freely available. Keeping in mind that teachers don't have a lot of money and students don't have a lot of money. So number one is easy. Number two is free. Number three. Kalau bisa, find a piece of technological tool that supports the development of students' language proficiency. Tools that help students to interact a lot more. Vinita can share, 1 or 2 tools later on with you. Yeah, tools that helps the students to want to learn more. Tools that allow students to communicate more in the classroom. Tools that allow students to enjoy the language more, to experience a lot more language input. I think that would be excellent. I think one tool that I remember, I can't remember the name of the tool. It involves dubbing or video dubbing tool. So students can watch somebody telling a very nice story, for example, a very simple story told by somebody. And that story is very good, yeah? Nicely done, and the language is very good. And what the students can do is to sort of use his or her voice to read or to create the same story. It's known as dubbing, video dubbing. That, I think, is a very, very good tool to use. The reason, number one, in order for the students to be able to tell the story in a nice way, the students will have to do a lot of practice, ya. Harus latihan berulang-ulang sampai akhirnya suaranya kurang lebih mirip dengan yang asli. And that, I think, is very important where language fluency, where language proficiency is concerned. A very simple tool like your mobile gadget, for example. I think that will be an excellent tool for the students to do what has been called shadowing. Shadowing is very easy. You listen to a story or you watch a video, and as you watch, you also say it at the same time. So you don't really need, very sophisticated tool there. Shadowing. Now, shadowing involves a lot of listening, and shadowing involves a lot of talking as well to yourself, basically. So that is good to help the students at the initial stage of learning. Vinita Devi later can share with you many other tools that are useful.
Notes.
Yeah.
It's noted. Thank you, Pak Willy. Thank you so much. That's inspiring. Thank you so much. I'm going to use that.
Yes, thank you, Bu Indrayanti,
sir.
Ya, mirip-mirip namanya dengan Menteri Keuangan Republik Indonesia.
Oh yeah, I'm from Politeknik Harapan Bersama in Tegal, Pak.
From Java, yeah.
Yeah, Central Java. Thank you. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Pak Willy. This is the end of the first session. Thank you very much for sharing a very fruitful ideas for all of us here, a very comprehensive explanation and ideas. And that's the end of the first session. And now I will give it back to Ibu Ufi. Thank you, Pak Willy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the great materials. Thank you for Bapak Dr. Willy as a speaker and also Ibu Riani as the moderator that led the presentation. All right, everyone, before we move to the second presentation, allow me to lead the photo session. Maybe kindly, please, the participants may open the camera. Ya, silakan untuk membuka kameranya ya, persembahkan senyum terbaiknya. Ya, karena kita di sini we have still more than 200 participants. Ada 10, ya, ada 10 slide di sini. Silakan untuk membuka kameranya, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Ya, saya akan pandu. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Oke, second slide. 1, 2, 3. Oke, the next, selanjutnya silakan open kamera Bapak Ibu agar terlihat fotonya ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Oke, we still have 5 slides. 1, silakan dibuka kameranya. Oke, baik. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Next. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we still have two slides. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
We've got participants from the Philippines. Magandang umaga po.
Magandang umaga. Yeah. Okay. Bapak Ibu sekalian, now we come to the second session of presentation will be delivered by Ibu Dr. Vinita Dewi SSMA. Allow me invite the distinguished speaker and the moderator will be guided by Ibu Yuniarti MPD. Please welcome Ibu Yuni.
Thank you very much, Ibu Ufi. Good morning, Bapak Ibu. I hope you are still on fire joining this seminar. I'm Yuniarti and will be the moderator of our second invited speaker, Dr. Vinita Dewi. Good morning, Dr. Vinita.
Good morning,
Hello.
Ibu Yuniarti. How is today?
I'm good. I'm very happy today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's so good. This session will spend around 50 minutes, 30 minutes for the presentation and 20 minutes for Q&A session. You may type the questions in the chat box during the presentation, or later you may directly ask the question by raising your hands and they will be answered. For those who chat the questions in the chat box will be answered in the after the presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Vinita Dewi is an English lecturer at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Purwakarta campus. She received her Master of Art in Tassel Studies from the University of Queensland in 2007 and finished her Doctor in English Education from University Pendidikan Indonesia in 2019. She is also the Director of Teacher Professional Development in Indonesia, the famous one, ITEL, Technology Enhanced Language Learning Association. Well, I have once visited this ITEL conference in Semarang, long time ago. Sorry, in Salatiga.
Salatiga, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Besides having extended experiences in EFL teaching and training for more than 20 years, she has a great passion and interest in the area of educational technology. Together with her team, she plans, designs, and develops e-learning materials, and also organizes some technology-focused teacher professional development programs for teachers across Indonesia. And today, Dr. Vinita will be giving a 50-minute presentation on the utilizing infographics in ELT class, Killing Two Birds with One Stone. Let's welcome Dr. Vinita Dewi.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. And good morning, Bapak Ibu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning.
Thank you for UMP. Does it call UMP too? Because I know that there is UMP in Purwokerto. For inviting me to this event. And thank you, Pak Willy, for your presentation. I do enjoy your presentation this morning. So my topic today will be talking about infographic, Killing Two Birds with One Stone. So while waiting for Pak Willy's presentation, I tried to find some birds. So I add some birds on the cover of my presentation. All right, Bapak Ibu. Previously in Pak Willy's presentation, he mentioned that I might introduce some technology tools, but not too many, and I will keep it at the end. Let's see if I have enough time. And then before I start, let me know who's there. I want to know who's watching. Who are you? Are you teacher, lecturer, students? You may write your response in the chat box. So while you are writing your response, I would also like to tell you a bit about myself and my teaching context. Because my teaching context is pretty unique, I guess. I don't know if anyone here have similar teaching context with me. So I'm teaching at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. It's not in the main campus. We have district campus. So one of the campuses is in Purwakarta campus. It's about 1 hour from the main campus. And then in my campus, it is called Kampus Daerah. So it's not a faculty like commonly faculty do. We have 5 different study programs. So in the past, we have 2 study programs: early childhood education, teacher education, and elementary school teacher education. So it's pretty similar. And then now we have new study program coming. And it's much more different than the previous one. We have information technology and system education, telecommunication system, and mechatronic and artificial intelligence. You can see that my teaching context is pretty unique. I have to teach in different kinds of study program, not only in education, but also in study program related to information technology. I teach general English actually, but I try to contextualize my teaching with my students' context, and their proficiency are pretty range from A2 to B2 in CEFR. So let me see your answer first. Some of you are professor in graduate schools. You're from Kendari, lecture, Kendari. Hello, Kendari. Vocational higher education, lecture from Jakarta, and many more. Oh, most of you are lecturer. So I think most of you are teaching in English study program, but probably some of you have similar teaching context with me, teaching English in non-English study program. So what I do with my students, this is my agenda of today's session. I'm going to talk about infographic in ELT and how we utilize infographic and also tools for creating infographic. Let's see, the last one, we might not have enough time. So what I do with my student, one of the things that I did is doing some project, creating infographic project. But before I move on, are you familiar with this term, infographic? Have you ever used infographic in your classroom, or have you ever read any infographic from the internet? You can say yes or no in the chat box. Are you familiar with the word infographic? Ibu Dia say no, Pari say no. Okay. Bu Suhartini say yes. Hello, Bu Suhartini. Ibu Eka say yes, using picture, log in Tirto ID, exactly. So, okay, some of you yes, some of you say no. Try to make it once, but fail. All right, this pretty various. Some of you are familiar with infographic, some of you are not. Let me introduce you to, or tell you what infographic is. So the one on the left side of the screen is the example of an infographic. It's created by my student. So what is it? So it's information in the form of graphic design. So the information is represented in a visual representation. It might be easier to understand for some students because usually it consists of short sentences. It has variety of topic and it provides you with valuable information. Sometimes we have data visualization like graphic, illustration, also some text and images. So in one infographic like this, you can see a complete story of the information. So that's infographic. Why do we need to use infographic in ELT class? Remember my context, I'm teaching English in non-English department. The proficiency level is very different from one to another. So I need to use something which is accessible by different students. It has a lot of information here, easy to read for some students, and it's less language dependent because it doesn't have long paragraph there. So it's friendly for lower level students. There are a lot of vocabulary there. And we know that we are not teaching Gen Z. They are visual learners. It's really helpful for them to understand the images, really help them to understand the context and the content of the infographic. So yeah, it will be helpful. I found it helpful for my students to provide infographic and ask them to read, to understand, to discuss, things like that. We're going to talk about how we utilize infographic later. And speaking of this, the topic of this seminar is something related to CLIL. So this is my disclaimer. We know that there are two different kinds of CLIL, the soft CLIL and hard CLIL. In soft CLIL, we focus on the linguistic focus of not the content. So I'm teaching English, but using the content knowledge of the students. If I'm teaching students from ICT program, then I'm going to use topic related to technology and ICT. If I'm teaching students from early childhood education, then I'm going to use a topic related to early childhood education. So I'm not talking about hard clear here, teaching the content with English, but I'm still teaching language with the use of the content. So this is the disclaimer why I use infographic for this topic. And where to find infographic? You can easily Google it, actually. Just find infographic for something. But one of the participants here mentioned Tirto ID. Yes, in Bahasa Indonesia, we can find a lot of infographic there. But you can also go to Pinterest. If you go to Pinterest and you write infographic, for example, then you can find lots and lots of infographic. You might find one or two related to the topic that you are going to teach. Or, for example, you're teaching something related to technology, you want to find infographic related to technology, just use some keywords, then you can find lots and lots of infographic. If you see that in infographic, we have different types of information. Some are descriptive information like this, but you can also find some statistics like this, which is also important for students' academic knowledge. Okay, so that's where you can find infographic. All right, then. So we talk about infographic. What is it? Why we need to use infographic in our ELT class. Then I'm going to show you how we can utilize infographic in ELT class. If you remember Pak Willy's explanation about the pedagogy, the ELT pedagogy, he mentioned about language input. So infographic can be one of the language input. We can use infographic in two ways. First, as a learn from tools, we use infographic as a resource for students learning. They read the infographic, probably they try to comprehend the content of the infographic and so on and so forth. So we use infographic as a learn from tool. But then we can also use infographic as a learn with tool. What is learn with tool? We use it for students, to accompany students to learn and to create something. So in learn with tool, the result of the learning process is the infographic itself. We ask the students to create infographic. But in learn from tool, we don't ask the students to create the infographic. Now let's take a look at some of the activities that we can do for infographic as a learn from tool. As I mentioned before, it's the input. We give exposure to students to read, to analyze, to identify information, things like that. So we can ask our students to find some information from the provided infographic. Or maybe from infographic like this, we can also ask students to generate their own question. Then they can exchange their quiz, peer quizzing. You can use any technology. Maybe you can ask your students to create quiz using quizzes and then exchange the link to each other. That's also possible. So we do really activate our students in working and understanding the infographic. We can ask them to compare or contrast information, maybe find 2 or 3 infographic and then see the similarities and differences between one infographic and another. We can ask our students to give personal response. What do you think about this infographic? Is it relevant to your context or not? And we can also ask our students to make a summary writing. After looking at the infographic, maybe we can ask our students to write one short paragraph about the infographic. So from converting from infographic into text, into paragraph. Or we can also ask our students to present their understanding about the infographic. So from infographic to presentation skills, to public speaking skills. And probably there are many more when you look at many different kinds of infographic. Let's see, like this. Then you might have different idea on how to utilize the infographic in your classroom. And what you can see is that since infographic has so many different kinds of topic in it, then we can facilitate our students to learn not only the language, but also the content. So, Bapak Ibu, which one do you think is possible for you to do in your teaching context? If, for example, you use infographic like this, do you think that you are going to use information searching or personal responses or compare or contrast and others? You can respond in the chat box. Which one do you think is feasible or doable in your classroom with your student? Presentation, okay. Summary writing, thank you. Presentation, yes. Okay, most of you prefer presentation. Okay, so you ask your students to read the infographic and then ask them to present something. Oh, Ibu Sinta mentioned information searching. Yes, you can also ask your students to dig deeper on the infographic, searching for certain information, specific information. This is to help them, because if it is the first time for your student to look at infographic, they might find difficulties. Maybe they are used to see text and now they have to find information in the form of graphic like this. So we need to help them. We need to accompany them when looking at the text in the infographic. Maybe they need some example first, discuss first with the teacher. And after that, you can let the students continue the discussion. Thank you for your response. Now let's move on. This is the second one. We are using infographic as a learn with tool. Here, we ask our students to create their own infographic. Later, I'm going to show you some of the steps, some of the activities that we can do when we try to do the infographic project. So first thing first, the easy things to do is having a self-introduction. Instead of writing a short introduction in a paragraph or having them to talk one by one, introducing themselves, ask them to create an infographic of themselves, and then post things that you think they want their friends to know about them. So it's not a CV, it's not a biodata. It's something interesting about themselves. So they might talk about their interests, their hobby, things that they keep at home, their pets maybe, or things that they like to do, their favorite movie stars, or things that they do in weekends, things like that. So it's going to be interesting because they are going to try to craft themselves in a form of infographic, and you can post it in Padlet, for example, or ask them to share it in WhatsApp, and they can show themselves who they are and who they want their friends to see them. That's self-introduction. Famous person. This is one of the things that I did with my student. We create the infographic of a famous person. That's why at the beginning I show you the infographic of Dian Sastrowardoyo, because I had a project on creating an infographic for a famous person. So one of my students picked this, and to reach this stage, they have to go through some series of activities. Okay, let's move on. You can also ask a class survey or statistic. Maybe ask them to create a survey about their favorite food or things that they do, and we can create the survey and then find the graphic, the figure, and create the infographic based on the class survey. Maybe habits, bad habits, things like that. You can also have a social research, making a timeline or a process. The example here is about the process, the timeline. So you can talk about the procedure of creating things, or maybe if you're in a vocational education, how to operate some machine probably. You can ask your students to create infographic related to that, and many more. So there are so many ideas that we can do to create infographic with our students. Okay, now this is the suggested step that you can do while doing infographic project. First, of course, we need to determine the topic. So we start from here, the brainstorming activity. We can start with the big umbrella of the topic and let our students to brainstorm what kind of things that they are going to create, what kind of infographic that they are going to create. Let them choose, let them decide, let them have their own voice. And then after that, we can go to the second step is getting exposure. Maybe some of your students doesn't know what infographic is, or maybe we need to discuss what makes a good infographic. So we can show them some example of infographic, a good one and a not so good example. Let them discuss maybe from the side of the visual, the colors, the choices of fonts, the pictures, and others. Let them critique the sample of infographic. And by doing so, they will have some ideas on how they are going to create the infographic from their group. And then after that, we can move on to planning and researching. Ask the students to plan what kind of infographic they are going to create, and do some research. Since it is an infographic, so the information that they put in their infographics should be based on facts. Okay, either they can make a survey, obtain the data themselves, or they can also make some literature review, finding some information. So there should be a research behind the infographic to make a good infographic content. And after they create and get some information, they can start to go to down here, drafting and discussing. They might have to sort some information, discuss it with their friends. They might need to present this to the teacher, their draft, before they start creating their plan, their ideas. And here, teacher can give some feedback to the students in terms of content, in terms of language, in terms of the plan of the infographic, and put the infographic creation at the end of the project. So don't put it at the beginning. Don't let them start creating the infographic before they go through this process, unless you will just get a product, but students will not get the language input, the language processing that Pak Willy mentioned previously. So if you just ask your students to create infographic, they will just learn how to make infographic. So they only learn technology, not the language. So let them put it at the end when all the plans are ready. They are set with all the draft, the sentences, the pictures. Then they can start working on the infographic using the technology. And maybe some of you curious about what kind of technology tools that we can use when we create infographic. Somebody has mentioned that you try creating an infographic, but you fail. What technology that you use, or maybe other participant would like to share any infographic, any tools that you use to create infographic. Okay, Canva is my favorite. Thank you, Pak Iqbal. Other than Canva, do you have other possible technology tool? Okay, Canva is my favorite. InDesign and Illustrator, yes. It's a paid software, so I don't use paid software. I use free software. CorelDRAW is also useful. Affinity Design, thank you. Canva, and so on. So here are 3 technology tools that we can use out of many to create infographic. Generally, Canva and PictoChart. Some of them have pro features, pro version, but we can rely on the free version. Let me show you Canva, because I think many of you mentioned Canva. If we go to canva.com and you have an account and you click create design, you can just type infographic. And you will have many templates of infographic that you can use or that your students can use. Look at this, the one in the left side of the website. And you can just easily use one of the template and change it with the content of infographic that you have planned. Okay, you just change the title, change the description, and then give some illustration, things like that. So it's super easy. If you don't think that this template is suitable for you, then you can find another one. Maybe this one is better. You can just change the text, the picture, the layout, the color, depends on your taste. Okay, so don't ask your student to put too much effort on creating the infographic itself, because that's not the language learning. But ask your students to put a lot of effort in preparing the content of the infographic. Ask your students to make research, sort the information, write the sentences, do some presentation about their infographic, and let this become the final product of the long process of creating the infographic project. So, jangan sampai salah fokus. Yang harusnya fokus di language teaching, kita malah jadi graphic designer gitu ya. Studentsnya malah jago graphic design instead of enhancing their language proficiency. So that's what I call infographic project, killing two birds with one stone, because actually it's not only two birds, many birds that we can catch using infographic project. First, the content. The language, the language itself. We can help our students to learn the language using infographic project. And then the content. If we are choosing the right content, or if students choose the right content when they create infographic, or when they use infographic as a learn from tool, then they can also improve the content knowledge. Other than that, if you are asking your students to create it collaboratively, then you can also have their students to have more 21st century skills: collaboration, communication, digital technology skills, visual literacy, things like that. So it's one pack of project which can be used to enhance the language, but also beyond language skills. So I guess we need time for question and answer. So if you are interested to know more about technology tools or this infographic project, you can contact me through my email. And if you want to if you want to access my slide, then you can go to that link, bit.ly/Finita-UM Pontianak. Thank you very much. And I'm giving back the microphone to Ibu Juniarti.
Thank you very much, Dr. Finita Dewi, for the great and insightful presentation. Well, Bapak Ibu, as clearly presented just now, that infographics provide many benefits for ELT class. Yeah, it can hold students' attention, simplify many benefits, simplify complex topics, stimulate visual learners, images aid understanding for concept and memory, and so on and so forth. Very interesting and inspiring. Thank you, Dr. Finita. Well, Bapak Ibu, it's time for Q&A session. If you have questions, you may type the question in chat box or directly raise your hands. We would like to start from the first question from, Bapak Maharida M. Abbas. Sorry, Ibu Maharida.
It's okay. No problem, Ibu. I get used to call with Bapak because my name. Thank you, Ibu Yunita. You are a great moderator. It's really good to hear from your voice and then the very clear pronunciation. And Ibu Dr. Vinita, it's really cool presentation, and then I learned a lot by sitting here. So I am Ibu Maharida from Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar from Sulawesi Island.
Wow.
And then so far, Ibu, but I'm so excited to having this seminar. So regarding to the tools, the cool tools that just now presented by Ibu Dr. Vinita, I have two questions. First question is mostly very subjective to teachers or lecturers personal. So since in Indonesian teachers or lecturers, we have a lot of things to deal with. That we call like Tridharma Perguruan Tinggi, doing research, and then community development, teaching, and I believe Ibu Yunita are feeling the same way, that we have many things to do in our hand. By using this technology also will be very helpful. So directly to my questions, Ibu Dr. Vinita. So regarding to the time management for the teachers, how do you see this? And probably you can share the tips mostly for our personal development in how we manage using these tools. Let's say that we need to learn about these tools, how to use these tools, also prepare the lesson materials, prepare the tasks and everything regarding to these tools. How you manage your time regarding to this, number one. And then number two is using tools sometimes can be very positive, and sometimes can be very I don't want to say negative. It's a little bit in my personal experience, let's say that I do believe that, and I believe that also the lecturers and teachers also feeling the same way, that the interaction between the teachers and also the students during using the tools in terms of social interaction, let's say, it sometimes is this distorting. We call it distorting because we are trying to using the eye contact, asking for the confirmation whether they understand or not by using the tools, the materials during the presentation. It's less interaction in doing that. Is as a teachers also, it's great to be able to read the students' nonverbal communication during the learning process, but it is limited by the condition, the internet, something like that, the Zoom, any kind of platform that we use. So do you have any tips on how to increase the social interaction between teachers and students regarding to the tools that you use? Thank you. That's all my questions. And thank you, Ibu Dr. Vinita and Ibu Yunita. I think that's all
Ibu
from me.
Maharida.
Oh, Ibu Yuniarti. Oh, sorry, Ibu Yuniarti. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ibu.
Thank you, Ibu Maharida. Well, Dr. Vinita, Ibu Maharida focused on 2 points. The first is time management, and the second one is the social interaction between the teacher and the students. Okay, Dr. Vinita, please, you may respond Ibu Maharida's questions.
Thank you, Ibu Yuni, and thank you, Ibu Maharida, for the question. Well, tough question. The first one is time management. Well, I know that lecturers are busy, but I believe that good teaching is really depend on good planning. So I plan my teaching. So I spend time for myself to plan the project. The planning itself might take a little bit of time, but for example, I'm showing you this infographic project again. I can do this for 3 or 4 meetings, but I plan it once, right? At the beginning, before I launch my project, then I plan. What do I do on my first meeting? What do I do on the second, the third, and the fourth? In that way, I think doing this kind of project is easier for me to plan. It might be tough at the beginning when we do the brainstorming. We need to help our students to dig ideas, creativity, what they want to create, because that's the very critical point. But then once we have discussed what they're going to do, we can let them work individually or in their group, starting to find the information, searching for information, things like that. And then they might report at the third meeting. So actually it's easier for me. If I do it in a face-to-face class, I'm going to do the first and the second in a face-to-face meeting. And then this time I don't have to go to classroom. I mean, they can just do it on their own. Usually I have a blended learning class, so they can just work on them, but I have to provide a kind of platform for them to report. Don't just let them work alone. So I have to ask in the morning, don't forget today you have to make a plan and research on the topic. When you're done, please post the result here. You can use Padlet, you can use WhatsApp, you can use Telegram, and so on. And then when I meet again in the third week, we are going to start drafting. So I accompany them. I don't have to teach. I accompany them while drafting, discussing. If they have problems, then I can help them, or I just facilitate the discussion. And here in creating the infographic, they can just do it at home. I don't need to accompany them, because usually they are better in using the technology. Just like what Pak Willy mentioned, they are technology user, but they might not know how to learn using technology. So just show them Canva. These are the features you can explore yourself and let them work on their own. So I think in terms of time management, plan at the beginning, and you don't have to plan anything for the rest of the 4th week. That's what I love about doing project. We know a lecturer need to have a project-based learning now and case method, so you can use this. The second one related to technology, I think you are referring to something that we should pass right now, discussion in Zoom meeting or online learning. What I did, I do a lot of teaching, not using Zoom, but using Telegram. I use a lot of icon, emoticon, things like that. We can discuss it further actually. But then I sometimes ask questions or prompt picture in a Telegram or in WhatsApp, then ask them to respond using their voice. And it's much, much better. The interaction is much better than using Zoom. If you ask your students to answer in Zoom, only 10% will answer dengan terpaksa. But if you ask your students to respond in Telegram and WhatsApp, 90% will respond because they have time. They don't have to show their face. They don't like showing their face in Zoom. Okay, they can practice, latihan dulu, make sure that the voice is okay. Then they share the voice in Telegram or WhatsApp. That's one of the tricks that we can do to engage them in an interactive activity. That's what I can say, Ibu Maharida. Hope it answered the question.
Thank you so much, Ibu Maharida, for the questions, and Ibu Vinita for the clear answer. I do agree that it might be tough at the beginning. The key is the preparation. Am I wrong, Ibu Vinita?
You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's come to the next question. I would like to respond the question from the chat box from Ibu Atin Kurniati. Yeah. The question is, how is infographics different from poster project? Yeah, it looks the same. Yeah, at glance. What do you think, Dr. Vinita?
Yeah, infographic and poster looks the same, but infographic has dense more information than a poster. In poster, usually you have more picture, more visual, and a bit of words and sentences, right? But in the infographic, we have more information, more statistic, and a bit of visual. So it's more informative than a poster.
Yeah, it is clear, Ibu Atin Kurniawati. I hope you agree with this, that it is more informative, more detailed. Okay, come to the next question. Well, actually, I really allow you to raise your hand if you want to directly ask a question to Dr. Vinita. The next question, the third one, comes from Ibu Hesti Wijaya. The question, yeah, she has a problem actually. Yeah, our problem is always related to time, which is quite limited. Yeah, it is actually has been discussed, but how should we limit the time for looking for the suitable infographics? Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, Dr. Vinita.
Yeah, I I realized that searching for the suitable infographic is not easy. Maybe we need to find the umbrella of the topic first. Well, actually, there are some other websites that we can find in relation to infographic, but then having keywords here. For example, Ibu Hesti, what do you teach? Maybe if I'm teaching my early childhood education teachers, pre-service teachers, then I will search for infographic for early childhood. Oops, sorry, made mistake. Then what I'm going to do is I will find something informative, but not too wordy. I'm not going to pick this one that's too wordy. So I might pick this, not too wordy. Or if I think that my students are proficiency level is not really high, I will choose this, the one with big fonts, not too many sentences, and easy language. So you can look at the level of the language suitable to your students, the display, and also the dense of the information. Do you think that your students will be able to understand the infographic or not? And make quite quick decision.
Okay.
That's what I can say, Bu Yuni.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vinita. Ibu Hesti, make a quick decision. Yeah. Before we come to Ibu Indrayanti for the direct questions, I would like to read a question from Bapak M. Iwan Munandar. Actually, this is for both Pak Willy and also Bu Vinita. Pak Iwan is very interested in interculturality and multilingualism in ELT or EFL education. Are you familiar with some studies that explore the role of technology used in effort to improve student intercultural competence and multilingualism? If so, could you please talk about this a little bit? Matur nuwun, nuhun pisan, tararat thank you from Pak Iwan Munandar.
Hello, Pak Iwan. Sorry to maybe to make you disappointed. My research area is in technology, pedagogy, and teachers' professional development. So interculturality and multilingualism is not in my research area. So if I suggest one, I might be wrong. Hopefully Pak Willy is still here listening to us, and he might be able to give some suggestion to you. But really, I cannot give suggestion, but because this is not my research area. Sorry, Pak Iwan.
Pak Willy, any suggestion? Okay, I don't think Pak Willy is on now. Okay, now let's come to a direct question from Ibu Indrayanti. Okay, Ibu Indrayanti.
Thank you, Ibu Yuniarti, and hello, Bu Vinita, Teh Vinita.
Hello, Bu In. I think
it's glad
your face is familiar.
Meet you again in this. Thank you. I'm quite familiar for you. Nice to meet you again, Ibu Vinita. Such an interesting topic, but my question is, I don't know whether it's kind of sharing first. So I'm teaching at a different study program, English for specific purposes, especially. So I'm really interested with your topic, using infographics, but can you suggest me, Bu Vinita, so with kind of a low level of English, what kind of topic that's suitable for them? Yeah, for example, I just really want to try to have like a collaborative or project between department, for example, 2 departments will join with the project, and because of they have such limited vocabulary, so what kind of topic would you suggest me using the infographic for the students? Sometimes I'm lost. I need a lot of suggestion. Thank you so much before.
Thank you, Bu In. Well, Dr. Vinita, the topic.
Okay,
Yes.
Bu In. what department are you teaching?
Yeah, because I'm teaching at the Polytechnic, so a lot of departments. We have 11 departments, but I'm teaching in the visual and communication design. I'm teaching in the informatics. I'm teaching in the pharmacy, in the midwifery, in the computer. So would you suggest me, Miss, what kind of topic? Yeah, so I can collaborate more than one departments in doing the project using infographic. I'm going to try, really.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You have so many different, you teach in so many different departments, and actually they can exchange their knowledge. Yeah, they can exchange their knowledge while working on the infographic. If it is the first time, you might not have to create an infographic related to their content knowledge. You might need to start with something personal, like what I did before, a famous person or hero, but you still can ask your students to create an infographic, for example, a famous person in startup company, a famous person related to technology and education, things like that. So it still have the irisan with their content knowledge, but not that difficult. But later, maybe if you want to start with the second infographic, I did some project with my students, like infographic about online shopping, tips about online shopping, or how to start an online shop, or things like that. I also did the topic about future transport. This time, I want my students to imagine what kind of future transport that will exist in the next 10 years, for example. Although it's an imagination, I still ask my students to do research. What kind of future transport that, what kind of trends in transportation today? So they might see different kinds of transportation in different countries, and then they start to think about, imagine the future transportation, which is fit to Indonesian context, for example. So there will be some ideas that students will love. I hear that your study programs, most of them are related to technology, so you might relate them with some things related to technology. Yeah, you may start with famous person in startup company. Then they might think of some new company that are established in Indonesia or also in other countries. Then they can do some research on the CEO of those startup company. That's what I can say. Hopefully it helps, Bu Iin.
Thank you, Ibu Iin. Hopefully it helps. Yeah, we try to accommodate the question respectively.
Thank you so much, Bu Finita.
Yeah, before Pak Hendra raised his hands, actually, Ibu Gustika Putri has already posted the question in the chat box. Would you please wait a moment, Pak Hendra? Okay, I would like to read the question from Ibu Gustika Putri. Actually, this is for Pak Willy and Bu Finita. The first question is, how do we teach a large group of students with different capabilities in English? For example, one is great in speaking yet low in listening. And the second one, how do we utilize technology effectively in differentiated teaching and assessment? Okay, two questions from Ibu Gustika Putri, Dr. Finita.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully Pak Willy is still here to back me up. I will try to answer the first question related to teaching in a large group with different capabilities. There are two things that I usually do. First, I facilitate learners who, for example, the learners who is strong in speaking, I will let them speak. If they are strong in writing, I will let them write. How? For example, I will relate it to infographic project here. Each students in the group, for example, there are 4 students in a group, we can have them different roles. I think this will be related to differentiated instruction too. We have them different roles. First is the information searcher. This is the person who really loves reading. So they will search for information, find the information and try to summarize and so on. And then the second one is the writer, the one who create the short summary, the sentences for the infographic. Let the writer lead, not do, but lead. The third one is the one who likes speaking. Let them represent their group to present the idea, to present to the classroom. And the listener, I don't know, because it's yeah, maybe you can ask them to search for information just like the reader, or you can also give them a chance to be the note taker and so on. So give them roles based on their strengths, but you can also make them go out of the box, go outside their comfort zone and change the role. If he likes speaking, ask them to become the researcher. If they like writing, and ask them to become the representation in presenting the idea. So you can mix and match students with different capabilities and different language skill proficiency. And then related to how to utilize technology in differentiated teaching and assessment, one of the things that we can do in differentiated teaching is giving choices to students. One of the things that we can do in infographic is giving choices to students to choose the topic. For example, we are making infographic about famous person. They can choose the famous person that they like to talk about. So don't provide them with information. And the assessment, we can have the rubric on the process and the product. And also we can have a kind of peer assessment, ask a different group to evaluate the product, and ask people in the same group to evaluate the performance of their friends. So it can be one of the indicators, one of the assessment component when we evaluate the students' project, not only from us, but also from the learners. That's what I can say. Maybe not really explaining everything, but yeah, trying to answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vinita. I would like to say sorry for Ibu Gustika Putri. Dr. Willy is having another meeting now, so he cannot respond to your question. So I think this session is a special session for Dr. Vinita, so we cannot accommodate the question for Dr. Willy. Thank you. Now it's time for Pak Hendra to ask questions. Pak Hendra?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Dr. Vinita. Warm greeting from University of Syakuala. I'm from Aceh. Actually, I also teach general English at the university. But my question is it possible for us to use infographic in which in one class, the students are from different discipline? My question is it possible for us to use infographic where in one class, the students are from different discipline? Yeah. If it is like the appropriate infographic that we can use in our classroom. Thank you, Ibu Vinita. Hatur nuhun pisan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Pak Hendra. I did that, using one infographic for different study programs. It means that we need to pick the infographic which content is general, not too knowledge specific, in which the infographic can be understood by people from any different discipline. For example, I was searching for an infographic while you were explaining your question. There was an infographic about rules of health. This is something general, right? Infographic about sleeping. It's not in English. Let's see. Yeah, things like that. This one. So find a topic which is general, which is accessible for any students from any discipline. It means that we don't really teach content specific. We just teach the language, and we can also give them some more knowledge about the content, but not specific to their study program. So it's still possible, Pak.
Thank you, Ibu. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Sama-sama,
much.
Bapak.
Yeah, Pak Hendra. And before we end this session, I would like to read Ibu Indrayanti. Yeah, the question is very interesting about the evaluation rubrics for graphic project. Ibu Finita.
Okay. I don't have one at hand because I have to search, but I usually use this website. Can you see this website? Anyone familiar with this? Rubistar is a magic website that can help you create an infographic. Let me show you. Wait a minute. For example, you have click product here. It's not only for infographic, right? But you can use any topics here. Like you can use rubric for writing, you can use for speaking, oral project, and so on. I can use this, making a poster, and then I can add some information later. For example, we can pick one topic, originality. So here are the rubric for originality. We can also pick, let's see, attractiveness. And here are the rubric for attractiveness. What else do you want? We can pick, something related to grammar. Here are the rubric for grammar. So you might pick 4 to 5 category of your assessment. Then you put it here. You can edit anything here, and it can be shared to the students before they start their infographic project, so they know how they are going to be assessed at the end. So they know that the originality is important, their infographic should be attractive, but still they need to think about the grammar, the correctness, the mechanic, for example, and what else can we see? So there are many other things that we can talk about. Content accuracy, if you also want to evaluate the content. So there are many things that we can do with the rubric. It's for you teachers, lecturers, to decide what kind of evaluation you are going to assess from your students. You can also find some other possible, like for example, multimedia project that can be similar to infographic project. And you can see the draft. How is the draft of the students? You can also see source presentation, for example. So you can use Rubistar. Let me copy this and share it in the chat box. Then you can easily create some rubrics, not only for infographic, but also for other activities that you did with your students. Not specific to English. So if you want something more specific, then you can just adjust to the evaluation form that you want to do with your student. Yeah, passing back to you, Bu Yuniati.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, this session has covered the given time, 50 minutes of including the presentation and the questions. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Finita, for the great and insightful presentation. Again, it was a pleasure to have you with us. And Bapak Ibu, thank you for your active participation. Yuniati, thank you. Ibu Ufi.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dr. Finita Dewi and also Ibu Yuniati MPD. We finally come to the end of today's agenda. Let us close the seminar by reciting Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Those are the agenda we have presented to you this morning. We hope that you can learn many things for the great and comprehensive presentation for today. Thank you for the best speaker, Bapak Dr. Willy and Ibu Dr. Finita Dewi, and thank you also to the moderator, and thank you so much for the distinguished participants that participate until the end of this session. See you on the next occasion. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Finita, all participants.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Bapak Ibu. Thank you very much for joining my presentation.
Terima kasih, Ibu.
Thank you.